than others, so maybe what we'd like is take a few minutes to tell us about yourself, and then why you think you want to serve as an interim council member.
Okay, my name is Abdul Aswad. I was reared in the Berkeley section, went to elementary school, Abraham Lincoln Elementary School in Berkeley. Then I went on to Ruffner, at that time junior high. Went to Booker T, graduated in 1965. Went on to the United States Air Force.
Good year.
Yeah. Went on to the United States Air Force for 4 years. Got out, honorable discharge. Went to Norfolk Southern, worked there for 30 years, retired while employed at Norfolk Southern. Went to night school at Norfolk State and Old Dominion. Have a BA in social science. Have a master's in urban affairs, concentrated on criminal justice. Was married, wife died from cancer, married for 30 years. I have 2 children. I'm presently working as a coach, volunteer, mentor, substitute teacher, task force committee, Norfolk Public Schools. Been doing that, well, not on the task force, but I've been a coach in Norfolk Public Schools for 19 years, soccer coach, Lake Taylor Middle School. And superintendent just recently assigned me to Transformation Task Force for Norfolk Public Schools. And former real estate investor, founder of the Trading Post, which exists on 35th Street, one of the Flores market, it's a little supermarket on 35th Street that still exists. And I'm working with the Capital Cuts Foundation for training young people to do barbering. Don't have too much spare time. I guess I don't have a wife yet, so they have to be very patient if they get it.
No money too.
So
Why would you like to serve on the council? What do you
Well,
think you can bring?
for Ward 3, there are a lot of projects that are going on, the Walmart market, the Croc Center, the Broad Creek Academy. I like to keep those dots connected. I know all the potential candidates that are going to be lining up to run, and I've spoken with them already to make sure that these projects won't get pushed to aside. I think I have the expertise, the know-how, and the connection in the community to help make those projects successful.
Great. I'm going to be asking the same questions to every member, to the 3 folks we're going to interview, but what do you think of the overall direction of the city, and how do you think the city's doing?
Well, the overall direction is great. That's why I want to join the team. Super Bowl team. It's great. I think it's a lot of progress is being made, and I'd just like to put my 2 cents worth in to help continue going forward.
Priorities. If we appointed you to the council, what priorities would you have?
Well, on that task force, which is huge, education to attract people to Norfolk with all these ventures that are going on. I think that task force for education is a key component of getting people back to Norfolk. And I think we're on the right track with that education task force, transformation task force.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Have you thought about whether you would run or not for the office?
No, sir.
You're not going to run, or you hadn't thought about it?
No, I just wanted to keep the good work going, and we're going to have a lot of candidates that's going to be coming and aligning themselves. No, sir. I just wanted to help keep.
You have no interest in running, is that what you're saying?
No, sir.
Is It's a lot of fun, you know.
Not with some of the
Speak for yourself.
not with some of the candidates that I know that's going to be lining themselves up. And there's nothing negative about that, but that is going to be fun.
Well, Coach, you've done a lot in the community. We really appreciate your interest in trying to be a part of this council. Does anybody else have any questions for us over here?
Aswad was very diplomatic. He failed to tell you guys that his parents are my godparents.
That's been too political. I didn't want to.
I
Where's
said
the
it, you
newspaper
didn't.
reporter? Is it on TV?
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Coach. Thanks.
All right, and I want to thank y'all for the interview. Y'all doing a hefty job. Appreciate it if I could get on the team. Quarterback, center, wide receiver.
Water boy.
Water boy.
We're just a bunch of lime.
I'm a cheerleader. Speak for yourself.
Dr. Whibley.
Good to see you again. Thanks so much for all you do.
Daltrey, known him for years, and Mayor.
Good to see
We've
you.
been back in the trenches when my son used to play against his son in soccer.
That's right. That's right.
And I appreciate all y'all. Okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Thanks. Way back.
Are we dating you again?
Yeah,
Because they
but
did
his-
that last
His son was a
meeting.
good soccer player. Yeah, good soccer player.
The trick to that is when I was born, my dad made the whole church my godparents.
Oh, okay.
And his parents were members of our church at the time.
You got lots of presents, huh?
I did. Beautiful.
Oh, you so nice, goddaughter.
Everybody minute has been a godparent.
She'll tell you that
But
story.
you lost, right? You really
Oh, she
lost.
already had.
Oh, she started that stuff.
Your votes
Okay.
count half now.
Well, Mr. Green, it's good to see you again. It really is. And so we very much appreciate your willingness to be considered for a position on the city council again. And you know firsthand what we go through and what the experience is. So, you know, your willingness to do it again is is admirable, believe me. So, I'm going to ask you some questions that I'm going to ask everybody. And some of us know you better than others. And so if you could start off with telling all of us a little more about yourself and then again why you would want to do this again.
Well, I'm a native Norfolkian. I live in Ward 3 in my current house and my present home over 50 years. And I was really born in Ward 3. It wasn't called Ward 3 then, but and the city came through and bought my family's home and other homes in the neighborhood for industrial development. And then we moved to the country, to Norfolk County, the Tanners Creek section. And it was the country because they had country roads, they had septic tanks and ditches on both sides of the streets. And I worked with the civic leagues there to carry petitions and lobby people to get that alleviated. And much of it was through the Model City federal program. But when they got to my street, they had run out of money. Philpotts Road. So my husband and I formed a two-person committee, and we call ourselves the Philpotts Road Improvement Committee. And he took one side of the street and I took the other side of the street, and we carried the petition. And our neighbors had to sign to say that they would pay for the sidewalks if the city would do the street. And the public works director man said, good luck, Ms. Green, because, you know, you usually have a hard time then. And we got everybody on the street to sign but one man. So we had 99% of the people to sign. And that was $3.5 million street back then, but in today's economy, it would probably be about $10 million. And as you know, I have served on the school board for 7.5 years, so I'm used to working with big budgets, not as large as the city council, but the school board's budget was more than 50% of the city's budget, so I've been through a large budget process. And I have served on the city council before, so I could hit the ground running. And I know, you know, the procedures and the working of the council. And I, feel that, and I'm a person who's willing to help and be of service, so I feel that I could come in and give y'all a little help at this time. And I know, you have big issues coming up in the spring, like the budget that I mentioned early, and some other things that I've been reading about in the various parts of the city and in Ward 3.
Can you tell us, just from your perspective, how the city's doing, and what do you think of the city's overall direction?
Oh, you're doing great. Congratulations on the All-American City. 100 most resilient cities for the whole world, and all of the other things in reading your priorities and your initiatives. I think we are really going in the right direction to leave a great and viable city to our children and grandchildren. So I think we're doing a good job.
What would your priorities be if you were to be
Things,
reelected?
things in Ward 3, continuing some of the things that Mr. Burfoot left that he hadn't completed. Down in the Northview section, I through there right much, especially in the 5 Point section. Looked like it could use some more curb appeal or sprucing up or something down there. And I
We were
think,
just talking about that.
oh, is that right?
80,
Okay.
That was, well,
Okay.
close to there, anyway.
Oh, yeah. And I know that some of the other civic leagues like Fairmount Park and Broad Creek and Ballantyne, I think Ballantyne has something with the school they wanted to save, and some of the other issues that I haven't. But right now, I think, sprucing up maybe Northview and keeping our neighborhoods and communities in Ward 3 up and making sure that they're up to par and up to code and things.
I thought Anthony finished everything.
You finished the money, we're taking the money out. But
There's no money
Money's
left.
gone.
The money's
Money's
gone.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
gonna have to be really good to keep that.
Yeah. Barkley will donate a tree.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us, or does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Green? We know you so well. I mean,
Okay.
it's just, we're glad to know that you're willing to do
Must
this.
not have been too bad the last 6 months,
Right.
You planning
No,
on
you-
running for
no.
this seat?
No. I've worked with people who have run and, and
Could you
that
be
was
talked
my
into?
forte, was to help folks who were running. And then after they ran, like my husband was one of Joe Jordan's campaign managers. And after Joe was elected, my husband was appointed to the Civil Service Commission. And he was the first black on the Civil Service Commission and the first black in the state of Virginia to chair a Civil Service Commission. And then we worked with Herbert Collins in his campaigns, and I got on the school board. And so it's been nice, just working with the candidates who were running. So,
Some old names there. So,
huh?
Some history there.
That's a what?
Some history.
Paul's gonna start crying.
I know. Well, Mr. Green, thank you very much
Okay.
for coming in. We're going to try to make a selection
All
today,
right.
and so
Okay.
we'll let you know. pretty
Okay.
promptly.
All
Okay.
right.
You know how to use an iPad?
I was on the first council. You remember I
Oh,
was
but
on
you
here
had-
when you got it, but I was.
should be able to help you, Barclay.
Before you and Paul.
But I'm a problem.
She was under
You
there.
know,
Knew there
you
was a
took
reason
it
to be
back,
there.
and I have, you took it back,
They
and I
gave
had
it to me.
Did you get all those notes I left?
And
But I-
they're new now.
Say
They're
what?
loaded.
Oh, they're new?
Paul-
Oh, okay, well, I
Paul
haven't
still
seen the
hasn't
new
figured out
ones.
how to use it, so.
Okay.
he's,
I haven't seen the
His
new ones.
grandson's beating him.
Okay, I haven't seen the new ones.
Yeah.
That'll be
I
exciting.
won't have a problem.
Okay,
It has been tech savvy for a long time.
okay.
You were.
Yeah. I was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, then,
Thank you.
okay. Happy New Year to you again, all right.
First of all, on behalf of the council, I want to thank you, Mr. Ross, for your interest in serving on the city council and to being a part of our group. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's not so fun, but you probably understand that. So I'm gonna ask you 3 or 4 quick questions, and we've asked the other members, the other 2 applicants as well. So some of us know you and some of us need to get to know you a little better. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and about yourself, and then, about why you want to be the interim council member from Ward 3?
Well, I'm here today at the request of a lot of my neighbors because, quite frankly, I won't say I was not interested, but I just didn't give it a second thought about, applying. And a lot of my neighbors in Meadowbrook Woods, where I reside, since I've been working there, volunteering, I should say, as treasurer and earned contact person, and my wife now serves as president, I guess I've come to gain their respect. I've lived in Norfolk all my life. I've taught in Norfolk Public Schools for the better part of 20-something years, congruently, not consecutively, because at one point I was all middle school up until about 97, and I left and worked out in industry with Verizon and came back shortly after 9/11 and been at Lake Taylor High School since that point in time. Ironic thing, since the past decade of working at Lake Taylor High School, my health is sort of like taking a decline. So officially, as of March 1, I'll be going out on disability retirement with Norfolk Public Schools. And right now, since about November, I've been on FMLA leave, which is medical leave. And so getting back to the point of while I'm here, I was asked by several persons and just basically quizzed on, well, why don't you? And they say, well, you have just about as much going on as anyone else. And I say, well, it's a funny thing. Years ago, I said I never will get involved with politics, and somewhere or another, God has different plans for a person. And when I first got into teaching, I had a former mentor told me that, teaching itself was small-time politics. And I said, well, lawyers and doctors, don't take any offense, any of you who are lawyers. I say lawyers and doctors. And so I said, if there's anybody I have more in common with, probably is a common police officer. The only difference between him and myself, I don't carry a gun in the classroom. But I did get a lot of, they say, things that you would probably do that you truly love, that you have a passion for, you would do for free. And past several years working in civic involvement, I've been involved with my local union, the Federation of Teachers, Norfolk Federation of Teachers. Served on the board with their number of years. Eastern Labor Federation, having the opportunity to be in and around and seeing how the democratic process works, not just here at this level, but at the state level. I've gained a lot more understanding and insight, and I guess that kicks back into my teaching gene. I want other people to share that same insight so that they know how to actually create a voice for themselves, for the ones who feel like that they have no voice. And what I mean by that, among my teaching colleagues, sometimes they fear even going to a common school board meeting for fear of some type of retribution or reprisal. I know, Tommy, you can probably relate to this, and you hear it all the time, but it's true. They say perception is real for a lot of people, and living in this city some 50-something odd years, losing a brother to the streets, I share a lot in common with a great many people that I come into contact with. So the way I see it, and I've said this a number of times to a number of different people, I said teaching in the community, the police officers, all the other services we have, the council that we have here in the city. I've lived here and I've seen change over and over again, and the things that I've seen Norfolk has grown to become, but there's a lot of things that I think that we leave undone still, and there's a lot of people that don't get involved still because of fear, and fear of what? I'm still trying to answer that question myself. Teachers don't get involved with their children. Parents don't get involved with the children. People in the community don't get involved unless there's something that is major enough to get involved. There has to be darn near crime committed before you can get a number of people to come to a simple civic league meeting. Serving as Norfolk president of civic leagues, I hear that comment coming off different parts of the city. So it's not just something that's germane to certain neighborhoods. It's a common thing. So the way I see it, it's all the same thing. It's all the same formula. It's the same type of quadratic formula, whether you're using it for math or whether you're using it for electronics. It's the same thing as far as I see it. How to get people involved, how to get them engaged. And I guess that's what created the passion that I have for it, because I want people to know that they have a voice, that they can speak up and say something is not right, or even for that matter, if something's going well, be able to say that. But fear of being able to do it, I don't know. You know, I come from parents who were functionally illiterate, 4th and 6th grade education, but they pushed me to this point, and I've respected my father and what he taught me and what I was taught in my family enough to know that my name means something. And if there's anything else I can leave as a legacy, because I don't have children of my own, but I've taught some 20-something, well, it's just, I've stopped counting at one point in time, but it gets into the thousands, and I've probably taught about 3 generations. And I'm so proud to say that I have a great niece right now who was just recently born, and but I want to see things change for her. I have a great niece, and she's the only generation outside of myself. So there's almost 3 generations that has carrying the Ross name that has got to the point where she's going to graduate high school. She's graduating Maury, and then she's going to be going to Hampton University. So, but it took 3 generations. You know, you look on and you get excited on one hand, but at the same time, it took 3 generations. So what happened all in generations in between? You know? So I know you asked me why was I here, but
That's a great response.
Yeah.
What do you think about the priorities of the city, or the direction we're headed, and how do you think we're doing?
I think the direction that we're going, I'm excited about it. I've always been excited about it. I'm proud of Norfolk. You know, the bottom line, when people talk about Norfolk, and I've had the unique privilege in my life to be involved with a lot of different things. I used to work with the military at one point in time, but I was never signed up with the Navy. I was working as a civilian, developing curriculums and revising curriculums. as part of some graduate study early back in ODU. And I used to work around a lot of non-commissioned officers who had visited Norfolk, and when I said that I was from Norfolk, their comment was, "Oh, Lord, you're from Norfolk." Their perception was, you know, you get robbed every time you get on the streets, da-da-da-da-da. You know, I said, well, it depends on what sections you're in. I said, just like in any city, you know, was it anybody guiding you around, or were you just going around seeking, you know? I said, you went in the wrong neighborhood, probably. But that was the thing. So I had an opportunity to, you know, visit different places around the United States and hear people's comments about Norfolk. And when they spoke about, and I'm not just talking about Norfolk, I'm talking about the whole Hampton Roads area, I claim it all, you know. You get this sort of like a personal thing about it, just like if somebody used to talk about my kids at school. And I had a former colleague, and I know I can get off the subject sometime, but I'm telling the same, I'm answering your question. You know, he called my kids one time degenerates. And I said, well, if it's got to that point where you're that frustrated, it's time maybe for you to go. And I've always felt that way. And I would tell people if things like in teaching have gotten to the point where I can't keep up with the kids, then I'll be the first one to say it's time for me to leave. You don't have to ask me to leave. But I see our city going in the right directions. I know everybody is not on board a lot of times because from my perception, I think they simply don't understand or keep up with what's going on. Some people rather will listen to gossip, rumors, get their information off of Fox News or something like that, rather than, you know, rather than, you know, but
You're getting an editorial tomorrow. Watch.
you know, it really boggles my mind sometimes when I'm in conversations with people. And I'm in conversations with people a lot, and they ask my opinions on that, and I give my opinions. I sort of like sometimes tell people, I say, well, you know, by nature, I don't know if you understand Myers-Briggs, but by nature, I'm an introvert. I might stay quiet, but as my dad used to say, a man doesn't say anything unless he has something to say. Well, I've had a lot more to say since I've gotten in my mid-50s. I got a lot more to say. I have to start writing this stuff down. I don't complain a lot, and like when you've heard me occasionally at past meetings, I always like to compliment you guys on the job that you're doing, because I can understand this much. Whenever you're dealing with people, and this is what I've always considered myself to be, my sister-in-law considers me a change agent or a servant, and I've always liked to consider myself a servant first. And I've told legislators, I said, don't forget about why you got here and who helped you get here. When you get into political office, it's my belief that that is just like teaching. I don't take it for granted. Somebody has put me in charge of their most precious possession. And if, whether I'm serving my neighborhood of only 120 houses at Meadowbrook Woods or serving my ward, whatever, the same thing applies. So if you don't know Jesus, now is the time to learn, or whoever it is that you're worshiping, because you by yourself can't, let's just say, have all the answers. You can't manage all the problems. It's going to take a collective group. And I'm all about trying to find things that bring people together and channel those differences to show them that those little differences that they magnify all the time are small compared to what they have in common. And I believe that we have a lot in common. And my belief has always been, you know, if you really want to get on a bigger scale, you know, you look at our country, how can we still claim to be a superpower when we still have illiteracy? I've always believed that if Cuba was able to eradicate illiteracy within a year, and even though it was a communist regime, I said, how come we just can't focus on just that one, as one of my past principals say, just make a little laser-like focus on that one thing, and just say we're going to take it, get rid of it in 6 or 12 months and do it. The reasons are not because we don't have the technology, not because we don't have the know-how, not because we don't have the brain power, you don't have the right priorities. And that's why I see a lot of the problems that I saw. That's why I like to bring people together, because I believe if they can see where they are, see what they have in common, that somewhere along the way, things will work itself out and the problem will get resolved, because they all share the same problem. Doesn't matter who's on one side of the tracks or who's on the other side of the tracks, or who have more, who has less. That's just the way I see it. And so that's my personal mission, not to divide, but to sort of like bring together. Wherever I see there's division, and even in my classroom, I try to, okay, wait a minute. This group is always sitting together. This group is always sitting together. So managing a city is almost like a macro version of managing a classroom. You know, you're going to have your problem children over here, people that you're going to have to separate over there.
He's gone.
They're on that side.
You know, I mean, and you got to meet them at the door, because if you don't meet them at the door, you don't. It's a science behind meeting children at the door. Meeting them at the door tells you a lot, because as they're coming down that hallway, their body language and everything else is telling you things you need to know. So by the time they get to you, you already know how you're going to handle that person for that day. Oh Lord, it's just, and it's nothing magical about it. It's all about people. And as long as you're going to be dealing with people, and I can't say that you can't work in any job. I don't care how many degrees, and forgive me for saying how many, I don't care how many letters you got behind your name. If you don't have the people skills, because you're dealing with people. And sometimes I think we get separated because, especially in education, too many people up here, they're using jargon that the ones down here don't understand, and so they feel disenfranchised just because they don't understand the vocabulary. And I tell people here, I was born in Berkeley. And I tell my kids that all the time, and they say, well, Mr. Ross, you don't sound like you come from Berkeley. I say, well, what does a person sound like that comes from Berkeley? Well, you don't have that swagger. I said, well, I lost that when I visited over here, because I had to sound like those folks over here, because if I didn't, I would have, I didn't make it to 54 being a fool, Well,
Well, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Ross? Anybody have any? So, great.
hope you guys enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
I saw everybody falling asleep on that little thing about the sand dunes. I saw a lot of closed.
We weren't falling asleep.
I saw a lot of closed eyes in the video.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Mr.
Well, I
Thank you so
appreciate you
much.
guys' time.
Hope you feel better.
Yeah. You're doing
Well, I'm
You're
looking
doing
forward to
better.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got the swagger.
The church was in Brooklyn. I lived in Eagleside.
Church was
The church was in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I grew up
Fine.
in
Do
Eagleside.
something. We're gonna go to closed session. Okay. It's fine.
Business is
You got
good.
no swagger.
Yeah,
I haven't.
some of us have switched over to Sam's because we're much younger.
Oh.
An ordinance appointing Alveta Green to the Norfolk City Council representing Ward 3 until the person elected on May 6, 2014 qualifies. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance and adopt. Mr. Protogiru?
Aye.
Mr. Smigiel,
Aye.
Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wynn?
One question, qualified would be July 1st.
Assuming they took the oath of office that quickly, right?
Aye.
Mr. Frame?
Aye. Okay. All right, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Terry?